Welcome, and thank you for tuning in to Lady K Chat, a podcast that is designed for men and women to become better versions of themselves, which is broadcast every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Various subjects will be spoken upon, such as relationships, health and wellness, personal development, wealth building, children, and so much more. She is a two-time Amazon best-selling author, an international speaker, and life coach. She is Lady K. And now for your host, Lady K.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Lady K Chat podcast. You are here with your favorite host, Lady K. Thank you for tuning in every Tuesday at 6 p.m. with me tonight, guys. We have a special treat. Oh my God, I have to introduce this woman of multiple hats. Like, ladies, we just do it all. Oh my gosh, I have to tell you about her. This woman that's sitting right next to me, she is an educator. She is the host of the podcast called Living the Principle, and she is also the founder of Progress Promoter LLC. Everyone, please help me welcome Miss Phyllis Williams. Welcome, Phyllis.
Hey, Lady K. Hello, Lady K's audience. I'm so happy to be here. I love your energy.
Thank you. I appreciate you, Phyllis. Listen, Phyllis, this subject was very dear to me because I really felt it was very important, to see things from an educator aspect. Us as parents, we have one way, but before I even jump into that, I just listed everything that you do. You're an educator, you're a podcast host, and you have your own business. Woman, how do you yourself, what is your coping mechanism to keep your sanity, to do all of that stuff? How do you keep yourself balanced?
Well, one thing I definitely do is organize and don't overwhelm. So that's what I would give everybody. A tip is to organize, but don't overwhelm. So I know with my business, when school started back in person, I had to scale back a lot. And I said, okay, maybe I'll spend 2 hours a week on my business and I'll spend 1 hour on the podcast. When I was spending more time when we were working from home, but working in the building, you start to worry, are you going to get sick also? Or is one of your students out? So that makes you nervous. People are having family members pass away. So emotionally, it's a lot. So I would say organize, but don't overwhelm yourself.
Absolutely. And just piggybacking off the, working with inside the school, even as a parent, when I sent my child to school, I had to worry about, is he going to come back home okay? Because I kid you not, the school system called me like every day because, they make the automatic call. Somebody today was, had COVID, and everybody that was around this person was informed. And I'm like, this is nerve-wracking, and y'all want us to send the babies back to school? And so I can imagine how you feel as an educator. So I know, they put the desk 6 feet apart and stuff like that. But Phyllis, do you feel comfortable doing that? And do you work in a public school or do you work in a private school?
Oh, so I work for a federal school, Department of Defense. You can work for the federal 3 different ways. You can work for a Native American reservation, a prison, or a Department of Defense education activity, which is, there's about 6 places in America, and they're in Italy, Germany, Spain, Korea. So there's a lot of different places you can work for the federal government as a teacher.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yes.
That sounds amazing. Tell us about that experience, working, from the federal side.
I will say this, I do feel somewhat, because I'm calling from North Carolina, I do feel more fortunate because money, at the end of the day, it's going to go back to money. How many times can they do a contract to clean? Is there a union that if something's going on that you don't like, that you can talk to somebody? So right. I really like working for the federal government because of those things, the union, and they have different funds, so I feel a little bit more protected. Like, for example, we have to wear a mask at work. And if someone isn't, that person will be reprimanded instead of just like So with a lot of schools, sometimes there's no check and balance system. So it's like, well, if I do it, I do it. If I don't, I don't.
Right.
So I like that. I'm a Marine veteran, so I like knowing that I'm giving back to the military community as well. But
Nice.
it was nerve-wracking, even with the 6 feet apart, which ours wasn't 6 feet. That's something else, different schools, different rules.
Right.
Another thing, a lot of teachers, they put us as a priority to get the vaccine if that was our preference.
Yeah, talk about that aspect, because there's a lot of people that still feel iffy about the vaccine. So it's like, how does that contradict, your work?
Yes. If I did not go back in the building, I would have not gotten the shot. Okay. I did get the vaccine, but the only reason I did was because I'm around kids who aren't vaccinated. They already coughing on you. I've worked with 4th graders, and
right.
They was doing it before the pandemic. They still gonna do it. Some kids, they still pull down their mask and pick their nose and put their mask back up. So it is scary. So I respect everybody's wishes and everybody's rights. And right. I would just say, make sure you do thorough, real research. Don't do YouTube videos. Go
right.
Somebody named Jackie said on YouTube. So do thorough research, but I can understand why somebody would be hesitant.
Absolutely. Now, I do have another question for you, Phyllis, because I know a lot of schools are adapting to this idea. So, they're giving parents the ability to choose. Either let your child attend full-time in school, or you can let them, I think it's called hybrid, where they can do part, online, and then maybe some days they'll come in, or there's a full circle where you can just do it completely online. In your experience, right, do you have to have the kids in the classroom and then the kids that's zooming in from home?
Thank you, God. No. Oh okay. My goodness.
Okay.
I'm still connected with a lot of different teachers, and I've seen teachers do that, and I'm like, how are you still sane? It is
right.
It is so hard already. And that's what I was talking about, the importance of funds, because we have 2 options. You can either do online or you could do in person. If you do online, they hire a different set of people for that. Those people only do online. So that makes a big difference. And we're not trained in this. This is something we learned on our own, right. On the fly. Like, we were like, okay, well, now I'm an online teacher. So it's very stressful. So I don't think that's fair to teachers. I think they should hire more people.
It is. And just from a parent aspect, like, this year taught me so much, because sometimes you got to step back and, look from the bigger picture. And I was like, wow, these teachers are overwhelmed. And the reason why I asked you that, because when my son was attending school, his teacher had the students in the classroom, and then she will allocate time for the online student. She would conjoin the online student with the kids in the classroom, but it was only for a certain amount of time. It was like maybe for like 2 hours. But even within 2 hours, that's a lot. So she's trying to engage with the children that's in the classroom and trying to engage with the one that's online. And because my son was online, the boy hated it. Oh my gosh, he was to close the laptop and run. So, speaking from a parent aspect, it was difficult, but I can only imagine, how the educator felt. And I feel a lot of parents, they're whining and complaining that the school is this and school that. It was like, have you took a step back and just look at it from a different perspective? Do you know how the educators feel? That's why, I wanted you to come on today and tell us, Phyllis, like, real truth, that it's hard out there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have an experience that you would like to share, like, during this COVID experience, that you had dealt with a kid or a faculty or a parent?
Whew, where to start?
I got stories. I'm ready. I want to hear.
I would say when it first started, I remember, and I'm going to be as strong as possible. I'm not a crier, but when it first started, I teach special ed. So children with mild or moderate disability.
Kudos to you. Listen, before you start, it takes a special person to work in that field. It really does, because the kids really need that, and I don't feel like they get enough of that. But go on, Phyllis. Thank you.
Thank you. So I teach kids with mild to moderate disabilities. So they may have ADHD, autism, dyslexia. Well, some people say dyslexia, but we say specific learning disabilities, difficulty with math, stuff like that. Some minor, maybe 2 years behind in grade level. And I had this child who was so busy. And that's just who she was. I still loved, you just get used to them being who they are.
Right.
And I got on the call and she was just flat. And I started asking her mom, I said, is everything okay? Because she was the first one to get on. She said, her cousin passed away.
Mm.
And her cousin was her age. So this was
from COVID.
It was they classified it as pneumonia, but still some contagious disease. And after that lady told me that, I still have to teach.
Right.
And I'm sensitive, so right. I just felt so bad for that child. And
right.
This was before they were saying that children can't catch COVID or other things.
Right.
So that was one thing with a parent. And of course, as you were saying, from the parent aspect, parents, I take my hat off to you. I am not a parent. When 3:30 comes, I'm ready to do a flip some days. So I take my hats off to you guys doing it 24/7, 365.
Listen, it is not easy, because last year, you should have saw me. I'm trying to run my business, do the school with the baby. I was like, I can't do this. I said, I respect the teachers. I said, what the teachers I bring them back, please, Jesus. I can't. I said, listen, I am not a teacher to him. Okay, yes. To him, I can't be teacher and mommy all the time. Then we in the house 24/7 because I just want to kill them. But yes, but going back to COVID, I do definitely know how that feels. I myself experienced that and I had double pneumonia in my lungs, and it was not a pleasant feeling. And I talked about this experience, over the summertime on my Wednesday walks, and I was explaining to people that I was inpatient for 5 days. 5 days, and those 5 days were really hard for me, and all I kept saying was, God, if you can get me through this, I promise you when I get out here, I'm going to run and stop playing on certain things, because sometimes we lag on certain things.
Yes,
we want to get it done. But coming from that perspective, even though I know the death can take a toll on you when you hear stuff like that, but can you share at least maybe one aspect that you've seen something positive came out of it?
I would say one thing that I felt was positive was there were a lot of parents that started to say, oh, when you're teaching online and you have 15, 20, sometimes more kids in a classroom, and they see one kid is in the chat box, they see one kid is rolling down the stairs, and parents are like, so this is what you guys have to deal with? I think there was a more empathy for teachers. And yes. I think there's been a louder call for teachers to get the correct pay and more pay and just more appreciation as well. So right. That was something. And I want to go back to what you said earlier, not to be negative, but also we still are being observed. Administration right. is still coming to say, oh, let's see how your classroom management is.
Wow.
So
they're putting that pressure on you with something that you had to learn how to figure out how I'm going to teach these students through online learning. They didn't even give you no tools, here you go, here's the update. Did they even do that? Did they supply the tools to you?
A lot of the times teachers figured it out on their own because we didn't have an online curriculum. So we started using all these different websites. Let's use Pair. Let's use
Google Meet.
Google Meets. Let's use Jamboard. We started using all this stuff. Let me find what website works best for a child or what works best for all of us. And so we're still getting observed. And if there was a program that was supposed to be rolled out, it was still rolled out. Wow. And for us, we still tested children this year. Wow. The state test it's not state with us, but sort of the state test, we still were responsible for that. Hey, I don't want these scores down.
Wow.
So it's, I still want these SMART goals reached.
Right.
I still want to know students are meeting their IEP goals. So you still have a lot of responsibilities.
Right.
And I think that was just something that a lot of parents started. That's something they didn't know. A lot of people don't know that about behind the scene. We're still held accountable for a lot of things. And we still have things going on in our own lives. In January, I had an uncle pass away. Then the next month, I have kind of like a wide family. Both my grandmothers. One of my grandmother had, I want to say 12 children. The other one had 10. So
wow.
Yeah. So I got a wide family. And I had 4 aunts who got COVID. 2 of them went to the hospital. And I don't talk to them often, but still, that's still my family. I still have to teach. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So just to remember that we have lives too.
Absolutely,
there were people
because
who
you're
had
human.
Yes.
You're human.
Yes.
You are human, Phyllis. I don't mean to cut you off, but I just thought about when you were saying that, we still have goals to maintain. And I get it, because at the end of the day, you really look back, it is a business. You have to run it. You have to have empathy for everybody. So it's kind of hard. But, again, you got to think about the safety, because safety is first. Because I remember when, I don't even want to say his name, 45 was in chair. A lot of people were upset when the state of Florida schools were open. Like, oh, yeah, we're opening, send your kids back. I was like, what? And then, the governor was down with it. It's like, excuse me, sir. Like, and that was like, back last year. Like, this is still fresh. How are you saying people come back? And those type of people, they didn't take it serious. They didn't care. And they just showed you, is this all about the money? But like, going back to you saying with the proper funding, my question to you is, did they provide like, therapy sessions, to the teachers? So, if they feel like, you have a traumatic experience or whatever, that there is someone that you can't see, do they do those type of fundings for their students?
Not to my awareness. I will say this, we do have a lot of school mental health people. We have school psychologists. We have a clinical social worker, and we have guidance counselor in our one building. And we don't have a big school. My school's only like 500 kids. And we have that the school psychologist is like part-time. And then the social worker lady, the clinical social worker, she works more with the families. But as far as any deep therapy, that wasn't offered to the staff. But I will say we really do support the children in that fact. And it depends on your administration too, how well they handle your trauma or drama. I really didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell my administration that what I was going through, because I felt like it's still, and I love my principal and assistant principal, and I know they have to answer to other people, but I still felt like it was mission first.
See, I don't like that. I honestly feel like, if you're going to love your staff, that, there should be, like, even if they ask you a survey, like, how are you feeling? Like, where's your mental health? Like, I honestly think they need to put something like that into perspective, because all it is like, hey, this is the structure, but what about when it comes to mental exhaustion? Like, what's the plan for that? What's the plan when a teacher's from overall? Just to shift a little bit from the education field, I have a girlfriend of mine who is a registered nurse, and she has her doctorate. And when I said when COVID hit, she was so overwhelmed, so stressed. And I asked her, well, are they offering you these type of services? She was like, no. I was like, I don't get it. I mean, I understand that most employers, they offer you health insurance. That's if they offer. But I know in the school district, a lot of times they do offer health insurance. So I'm guessing they probably say, hey, you got the insurance, take yourself. But I just thought it would be kind of nice just to step your game up just a little bit, just to provide some type of comfort. Like, even if, like you said, Phyllis, if you had 1 or 2 psychologists or psychologists on staff and say, hey, here's a break room, and you can go and have your little meet out. I think that would be something to consider. What do you think about that?
I think that's really important. And I know mental health is now a major concern with everybody, every field. And I do think that's a good idea or even just to encourage, hey, if you need to take a mental health day, take a mental health day, because you're possibly overwhelmed, instead of worrying, well, they may not have a substitute teacher.
Right.
Make sure you have enough substitutes, which is hard. I know that's other people are like, I'm not going in that classroom.
Right.
But
And that's another hard thing. Right now, like, before, remember, like a couple of months ago, there was a few states rejecting the federal funding, for the relief for unemployment. So they said, oh, this is going to move people to go to work. So when they did that, it still wasn't really moving people. But if you notice, a lot of course, the Republican states removed the extra funding. So it's going to make the person like, oh, I'm not receiving the $500 every week. So maybe I want to work. But a lot of people, they're not budgeting. It's like, how do you motivate people within these crises? Because even though they're saying that, you can get a shot, and once you get the second shot, I know people who got both shots, and then they got sick. And then it's like, well, that's not even guaranteed. It's like, so it's like, I know right now there's no reassurance, but that's what we really honestly need. We want that. And it's just sickening, and it's heartbreaking, because so many people out there are living in fear.
Yes. And I try not to live in fear, but I do try to be very cautious. Like,
right.
I'm going to wipe down my desk. I'm going to wipe down my doorknobs. I'm going to take vitamins. So in case I do get an infection, hopefully it won't put me at a total state of detriment. I'm going to go to the doctor. I encourage other people who are working to also do this. When was the last time you had your blood tested? Is your vitamin D level low? Are your white blood cells at a good level? So make sure you do things like that to also combat getting sick with any illness. Like you said, double pneumonia, flu, shingles. Like, there's so many different ways people are still getting sick. So, yep.
Right. So it's like mental health and your physical health, they go hand in hand. It's very imperative. But Phyllis, I'm having a great time with you. This is really great information. But before we leave, is there anything else that you would like to leave, or any remarks, just to give any other educators or parents, some type of insight?
I will say to the parents and the educators, let's both give each other grace and communicate without the intention of pushing your objective. So that's what I would say. Give each other grace, and please communicate without the intention of pushing your objective. You want this used, or you want that done. Because like you said, parents, you guys are still trying to juggle a lot too.
Absolutely. And talking about juggling a lot, because I want to mention this. Yes, as parents, we feel overwhelmed because we are taking care of our household. We're working our regular job. Sometimes people might have a side hustle, but as Phyllis mentioned in the beginning, it's all about organizing, and then also too, just knowing your seasons. When can you do certain things? And I'm saying this to you because we're talking about the education system. If we want changes and we really care about our teachers, I think it's imperative for us to start going to the school board meetings. Even when our school was, they shut down, they was offering it virtually, and a lot of people didn't know that, and the attendance was very low. So I highly stress, attending meetings. Don't say you don't have time, because you have time to go out when you want to go out. You know what I'm saying? So I just have to stress that. But everyone, I just thank you for watching in tonight. So Phyllis, if the people wanted to follow you and get in contact with you, how can they reach you?
You can reach me. I am Progress Promoter on Facebook, on Instagram, and my website is progresspromoter.com. And what I do as Progress Promoter is I promote wholeness, and that's through self-care, self-love, self-worth. So I think that's important, whether you're a parent or a teacher, also to make sure that you are whole and balanced. So if you want to look at some of the things I offer, please visit my website, progresspromoter.com.
I love that. Thank you so much. Yes, and that is imperative, because for someone speaking in the field that you are, and you're showing that you have a balance, that's very important. People need to see this is what balance looks like. So with that being said, everyone, thank you for listening tonight. Continue to follow us here at the Lady K Chat podcast here on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and you can check us on Spotify and Apple. And visit our website, www.ladykenterprisesinc.com. And I forgot to tell y'all in the beginning, this show is sponsored by Lady K Enterprises. We are a financial service and media firm, and we are here to assist all your business needs and personal needs. So everyone have a great night, and I'll see you next Tuesday here at 6 p.m.
Lady K.